These famous people are all one in a million. While not all of these stars on the list started out early on in the business, there are quite a few of them who actually have been working and entertaining us for decades, only you wouldn't even know they're the same people without evidence. Well, here it is. 20 famous people you never recognized today. Tim Curry. People toss around the word iconic regarding celebrities, but when it comes to Tim Curry, it applies. Timothy James Curry, born April 19, 1946, is an English actor and singer. He's known for working in a diverse range of theater, film, and television, most often portraying villainous characters. Curry rose to prominence with his portrayal of Dr. Frankenfurter in the cult classic movie Rocky Horror Picture Show in 1975. Reprising the role he had originated in the 1973 London and the 1974 Los Angeles stage productions of the Rocky Horror Show. Everyone knew after seeing this performance that Tim was a superstar. Curry received further acclaim for his film and television roles too, including as Rooster Hannigan in the film adaptation of Annie in 1982, as Darkness in the fantasy film Legend in 1985, as Wadsworth in the mystery comedy film Clue that same year, as Pennywise the Dancing Clown in the horror miniseries It in 1990. His evil clown performance is something people still talk about to this day. Curry has used a wheelchair since having a major stroke in 2012. As a result, he's shifted his work mostly to voice acting, although he's continued to perform as a singer and make appearances at fan conventions. The rise of Mickey Rourke. Philip Andre Rourke Jr., otherwise known as Mickey Rourke, was born into an Irish-French household back in 1952. His father was a known professional bodybuilder, although he quickly dropped out of the picture, leaving Mickey's mother single when the young boy was only 6 years old. Mickey transferred his emotional energy into a short-lived boxing career, but stumbled into the acting field when an injury ended his former industry path. With nothing but $400 he loaned from his half-sister, Mickey followed his new dream of being an actor in New York, until he first got his small role in the 1981 film Body Heat. It wasn't much, but his young looks definitely had an impact that led to future roles. After his lead starring role in a film called 9½ Weeks, he was labeled as one of the most desired men on the planet. Unfortunately, his ego got the best of him, and reports of him being difficult to work with made his acting path grind to a halt. He decided to try his luck back in the ring, but slowly found his way back into the entertainment world with small roles until the 2005 appearance in Sin City. Now a grizzled actor with years of experience behind him, you can see the transformation like night and day. His roles increased, and he eventually earned a Golden Globe in 2009 for his role in The Wrestler. During his speech, he thanked his dogs, who never leaves home without, cementing his good guy status to the world. One step for Buzz Aldrin. It seems like space travel really does change a person. Edwin Buzz Aldrin was the famous pilot of the Apollo 11 lunar lander Eagle, as well as the second person to set foot on the moon after Neil Armstrong. In fact, one of the most commonly seen images from NASA is the photo from the Apollo 11 space mission featuring Aldrin and not Neil Armstrong, as many people seem to believe. Armstrong was the one taking the picture, and you can see him in the reflection of Aldrin's helmet visor. In an interview, Buzz remembered Armstrong calling out to him to say, "Stop and turn," before grabbing the iconic picture. Aldrin has a fruitful career even before making history in outer space. He was a graduate of the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York, and flew 66 combat missions during the Korean War. By 1963, he had written a dissertation on orbital mechanics to earn his PhD from MIT, or the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. That same year was when he was admitted into NASA as an aspiring astronaut. Despite the wear and tear of natural aging, plus the harsh conditions that flying to space has on the human body, Aldrin seems to be pretty fit, all things considered. He's written several books, including 2 autobiographies, and continues to make guest appearances and interviews every once in a while. As a modern historical figure, he seems to want to do his best in the eyes of the public and continue to inspire many to follow after his footsteps. Tobey Maguire's posse. Look out, it's Spider-Man. No, it's actually acclaimed actor Tobey Maguire, who has notably aged since his younger years. While his young Peter Parker role could arguably pass as a teenager back in 2002, his more recent take on the same character from 2021's Spider-Man No Way Home definitely looks closer to his actual age. The well-known actor has had a very lucrative career, to say the least. He had multiple auditions and roles bringing him back to the same group of similar-aged boys, including Leonardo DiCaprio, Lucas Haas, and Kevin Connolly. But rather than trying to compete with each other, the group decided to make an alliance and band together. Knowing the future career of all of these actors feels a bit like a spoiler to this unique group of friends, but at the time, they were all living life as the hottest young men in the lot. Maguire made some of his strongest appearances during these years, including his role in 1997's The Ice Storm in the iconic black and white 1950s-inspired Pleasantville. After his Spider-Man role, the actor struggled to shake off the familiar namesake, although he tried to go against his typecasting with films like Seabiscuit, about a horse racing, and Brothers that finally gave him some serious award recognition. He took some downtime after these films to get more into producing, but he's since made some guest appearances in more recent films like 2022's Babylon. But don't let his look in that film fool you. He might have aged some, but not quite that much. Tales of Johnny Depp. Most of us may know him as the creepy Edward Scissorhands or the adventurous Captain Jack Sparrow. But the actor Johnny Depp has certainly gone through major changes since the beginning of his career, both for better and for worse. His first role was in 1984's screamer Nightmare on Elm Street, which was surprisingly brought to him by none other than Nicolas Cage. The two met by pure chance, and with Cage's confidence, Johnny Depp eventually became a household name. One of his first official roles was in the show 21 Jump Street, long before the comical movie adaptation, where the young actor gained traction as a heartthrob of a cop. Although he wanted to distance himself from this image, his next role was a bit riskier. It should be stated that his job ended up being one of the most notable, as it was with the title character in Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands. This would also mark the start of Depp's many appearances in Burton's later works. He found his greatest success in the role of Jack Sparrow in Disney's Pirates franchise. The success from this role alone is what really separates him from the 90s bad boy persona, just as he'd hoped. Since then, he's grown both physically and in film, from his time as a swashbuckling pirate to a candy genius in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. In a way, it's hard to look at Depp now and view him in any kind of role made for teenage girls to scream to. But if those teens grew up alongside him, maybe after all those years, they still feel the same way. Struggles of Iron Man. Back in a time when Marvel was only known for its well-established comics and not the mega-billion-dollar franchise we all know today, Robert Downey Jr. was a much different person. An older generation probably remembers him more for his crimes of passion than his heroic counterpart. The actor was originally part of a clique called the Brat Pack, a nickname for a group of young actors known for their coming-of-age stories in the 1980s. Robert Downey Jr.'s reputation was more of a party animal than a serious contender, though. While he was still just a young adult, he struggled with an addiction to drugs that began as early as his kindergarten years until he came out of rehab in 2003. During this time period, he made plenty of mistakes and landed in jail multiple times. Most of his charges were substance abuse related until enough charges were stacked up to land him behind bars for real. But as with most actors, he only served a minimal sentence and was back in his groove after a bit less than a year. When he was approached to play the rich boy genius and philanthropist Tony Stark, many skeptics thought the role was too perfect for him. Even today, people assume he's playing himself on the big screen rather than a fictional character. From the alcoholism to his stressful trauma, by the time Tony Stark finished his career in Marvel's Endgame film, many audience members have seemed to have forgotten both the actor and his role's previous sins. We're sure he's not opposed to second chances. The Huston legacy. The Hustons are practically Hollywood royalty. Although they've changed enough over the years, you could be forgiven for forgetting exactly what roles they've played. Angelica Houston is a third-generation Academy Award winner, with credits for both acting and directing. Some of her breakout roles have ranged from Morticia Addams in The Addams Family and The Addams Family Values, as well as Iron-Jawed Angels, and her directorial debut for Bastard out of Carolina. She followed in the footsteps of her father, John Huston, who also won for Best Director and Best Writing of the 1948 film The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, while her grandfather, Walter Huston, won Best Supporting Actor from the same movie. Angelica was born in 1951 and spent most of her childhood in both Ireland and England. She got her first role in one of her father's movies, A Walk with Love and Death, in 1969. Unfortunately, in that same year, her mother, who happened to be a Russian prima ballerina, died in a tragic car accident, which ultimately led to their family moving to the United States. Because of her height at 5 foot 10 inches, she spent her formative years in America as a fashion model. It wasn't until the late 70s that she decided to fully commit to acting. In total, she's been nominated for the Academy Award 3 times and finally won in 1986 for Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Prizzi's Honor. Since then, she's aged in the same way many Hollywood actors do, both gracefully but also noticeably. Although her acting career has slowed down, she continues to make many appearances in interviews and TV specials while sporting her trademark long straight black hair with bangs. Hopefully, a new project is still on the horizon. The Many Faces of Josh Brolin. Famed actor James Brolin had some hefty shoes to fill, but unfortunately it seems that his son, the younger Josh Brolin, might just be living up to the legacy. He was born in 1968 from his mother, Jane Cameron, and didn't seem to want to pursue the same industry as his parents. But after just one acting class and role in his school play of A Streetcar Named Desire, and Brolin's path was clear. You might not even recognize him in his first major screen debut of The Goonies back in 1985. From there, he moved into television and starred in several detective dramas. His father even directed him on the set of The Young Riders in 1989. His transition into film was only mildly received, but that didn't stop him from appearing in plenty of roles. By 2007, he seemed to have his stride with Quentin Tarantino's Grindhouse, the crime epic American Gangster, and the Coen brothers classic No Country for Old Men. With all of these accredited roles, you would think the actor had claimed enough fame for a lifetime. But no, there was plenty left for Brolin to give, including a Woody Allen film, You Will Meet a Tall Dark Stranger, and another Coen brothers remake of the novel adaptation True Grit. But if you somehow missed all of these well-known hits over the years, chances are you know that he's a major superhero crusader, or at least antagonizes them. He starred in the Deadpool sequel as a time-traveling assassin named Cable and the purple final villain of the Marvel Infinity War series. Not many can claim the roles of 2 superpowered Marvel characters, but not many have the legacy of Josh Brolin behind them. Axl Rose's Rock Life. The lifestyle of a rock star is often a drama-filled world of struggles and growth, and Axl Rose is practically the poster child. He was originally born as William Brew Rose Jr., but fans know him as the much cooler-sounding Axl Rose. Success hit him early in the 80s with his talent for producing, singing, and writing hit after musical hit until he was rolling in riches. Throughout it all, he never let fear get in the way of his accomplishments, inspiring plenty of would-be and should-be musicians around the world. He began his life with a chip on his shoulder, as his father was a delinquent 20-year-old and his mother was only 16 at the time of his birth. Music was his true escape during those formative years, and he probably wouldn't be the same person if anything had been different. He started his first band in 1982. The band name, also AXL, didn't really stick though, so he switched it to Hollywood Rose in 1983. We're sensing a bit of a theme here. That version of the band only lasted a single year and had a 5-track demo before disbanding, and Rose moved out to LA, where he joined the LA Guns. They later merged the 2 names and became Guns N' Roses while attracting a few record labels to their new and original hits. The debut album was a smashing success with over 500,000 copies sold in its first year and a record 30 million copies worldwide. From there, the same old story of band disagreements and rock drama took over. By 2012, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, although Rose chose not to attend the ceremony. Rupert Grint's rise. Fame for child actors can lead to a lot of unusual developments, and not many seem to make it out unscathed. The Harry Potter actors are especially notable for their long careers without any other lifestyle changes. From elementary school to high school, the group of kids all grew up living and breathing a world based on a magical young adult series. While Emma Watson pursued a career similar to her character, Rupert Grint, who played Ron Weasley, chose a bit of a different path. He was one of the few kids to try and make a name outside of being a British wizard, taking on roles in Thunderpants and Cherry Bomb, and then switching to a more dramatic feel in the 2012 anti-war film Into the White. He has since continued to pursue more film work, some of which you may have seen and probably a lot more that you haven't. That being said, it might be a bit hard to recognize him from his wizarding school days to now. Rupert Grint has long given up the Ronald Weasley persona and seems to have aged a bit more to look like a hit pop star Ed Sheeran. There were even a few jokes about the uncanny resemblance to each other on Saturday Night Live. But in time, like the actor Daniel Radcliffe, he's changed his look and attitude to be something more unrecognizable to his older fans. Being typecast just doesn't seem to work on these aspiring actors. Stages of Lindsay Lohan. Being a famous actor from a young age can really change a child's life. Lindsay Lohan was brought into the spotlight at the young age of just 3 years old. Her impressive resume included more than 60 television spots and printed ads for companies as large as Toys R Us and Duncan Hines. This ultimately helped her get her breakout movie role in Disney's 1998 remake of The Parent Trap. This also helped her obtain more roles with Disney, such as 2003's Freaky Friday remake, co-starring Jamie Lee Curtis. Her most notable role was in Tina Fey's Mean Girls in 2004, which helped to surge most of her popularity. The movie received high levels of critical success and led to her being honored by both the MTV Awards and the Teen Choice Awards in the same year. She would also later begin a short-lived music career. Lohan would later return to Disney for more family-friendly films, though she would see less and less success as years went on. As her celebrity status grew, so would the controversy surrounding her as she landed in scandal after scandal. In 2007, she was arrested after crashing her Mercedes-Benz into a tree in Beverly Hills. Only 2 months later, she was arrested yet again after engaging in a high-speed car chase. Yikes! She was then finally arrested on charges of drunk driving, which forced her into mandatory rehab. Lohan managed to keep a low profile after this, only taking on small entertainment roles. But this long phase that was full of controversy really impacted her life more than anyone could have thought. Fortunately, she seems to be on the right track, but we've yet to see if her prime is past. Bug Hall's Rascal Years. With a name like Bug Hall, you would think this actor would be more recognizable. Although you've probably seen him before, you'd have to be a truly dedicated fan to remember the little alfalfa from the 1994 film adaptation of The Little Rascals. But time did what it does best and marched on for everyone as the kid characters grew up and took on new and fresher roles. Bug Hall was only 9 years old when he starred in that movie from over 30 years ago. It was his first big break, but definitely not his final swan song. In 2002, he worked alongside Lindsay Lohan for the cult classic Disney Channel original Get a Clue. He also made appearances and cameos in shows like CSI Crime Scene Investigators, CSI Miami, Criminal Minds, and 90210, just to name a few. He even made a comeback in the 2014 special of The Little Rascal Saved the Day, although he was too old to reprise the same character. Instead, he played the Ice Cream Man. As he is now, an adult with a full beard and a couple of kids at his side, he seems to be more of a rascal than ever. Secret Life of Brittany Holmes. Here's another little rascal all grown up. Brittany Ashton Holmes hit fame fast with her first movie role as Darla in the 1994 feature adaptation of The Little Rascals. She was only 5 years old then, but her attitude and confidence came across like a seasoned actress in her field. She even took home the Young Artist Award for Best Performance by a Youth Ensemble in a Motion Picture. From there, she took on other critical roles, including Amy Carter in the 1996 movie Inhumanoid, along with several TV shows and commercials that played nationwide. But by age 7, she decided that she had been in the game long enough and made the decision to quit acting altogether. She preferred to keep her values in education and started a long pursuit towards political science rather than future stardom. Maybe she made the right call. Better to get out early on your own terms than stick around for too long, as some might say. She was reluctant to make a return for the Little Rascals reunion in 2014, but her headstrong attitude and unwillingness to be the odd one out pushed her to make the appearance. Although many comparisons were made between her child and adult selves, she made the formal declaration that she had no intention of jumping back into the Hollywood pool. Not much else is known about her personal life, and she probably intends to keep it that way. Looking up at Henry Thomas. Have you ever looked up and wondered what extraterrestrials might be out there? Elliot Taylor from Steven Spielberg's E.T. didn't have to wonder, although his actor, Henry Thomas, might have some thoughts on the matter. It's been over 40 years since the child actor appeared on screen, and now, as a grown man, Henry Thomas made an appearance on Good Morning America to say he's very proud to have been involved with such a classic-defining film. He also added that being a 10-year-old in one of the biggest films of the 80s was definitely a strange feeling. He told the TV host, "I didn't see it coming, and then suddenly you're famous and you're not anonymous anymore. I don't think I really knew how to deal with it very well." Celebrity status like that is definitely a lot of pressure to thrust on a young kid. He started out his career by trying to distance himself from the renowned film, but later realized it was more lucrative to embrace the fame. But the biggest shock came when he tried to watch the movie again with his 3 kids. They just didn't seem to get into it. While everyone else knows who the child Elliot was, these kids obviously only knew their dad as their much older father figure. Leave it to kids to keep us humble. Josh Peck's transformation. This famous star really changed up his image over the years. Josh Peck began doing stand-up at the young age of only 8 years old. After turning 13, he was offered a role on Nickelodeon's The Amanda Show, which helped him to pursue a more active acting career. He would appear pretty regularly as a gag character on The Amanda Show until the show's end in 2002. He had a few sporadic roles after this, but wouldn't gain a lot of popularity until he was cast as Drake Bell's counterpart in another of Nickelodeon's sitcoms. The two were lead co-stars of the teen hit Drake and Josh. While there were plenty of jokes about his physical appearance on both Nickelodeon shows, it was during and after this long role that Peck made a conscious effort to lose weight. He went on to describe in interviews and his autobiography that most of the jokes centered on his character Josh would often exaggerate his obesity. This effort would also lead him down a path of addiction to drugs and alcohol, which is fairly common in that line of work. But after realizing these habits caused him to have a reputation in Hollywood as being erratic and unstable, he decided to go sober. He's claimed that he's remained sober since 2008, and the change is pretty apparent. It's hard not to notice the difference in his appearance as Josh from Nickelodeon and Josh Peck the actor, as he lost a very considerable amount of weight over the years. In recent posts from his Instagram account, he also appears to have a very toned and attractive build compared to how his young counterpart appeared. Maybe we'll see him in more action films soon. Surviving with Bear Grylls. You might think that mastering the art of survival would keep you young and healthy for quite a while, but the truth is the more stress you put on your body, the more damage you accumulate until everything starts to wear down. Edward Michael Grills, more commonly known as Bear Grylls from the Discovery Channel's shows Man vs. Wild and Running Wild with Bear Grylls, has been well known for his TV survival shows. He's been pushing his body to the limit for as long as he's been able to, possibly starting in 1998 when he climbed Mount Everest. 18 months later, and he endured a terrible parachuting accident that broke 3 of his vertebrae. But it takes more than a crushing incident to stop a guy like Bear Grylls. The success of his wildman persona on TV led to millions of followers nationwide, and Time granting him a net worth well over $200 million. If you just want to look at his physical career and accomplishment, it'd be easier to find something he hasn't done. From hiking along the Himalayas to working within the British Army, this man has definitely seen it all. He earned the nickname of Bear from his sister at just 9 years old, but it seems more than appropriate even now. Despite his ongoing age, it's hard to tell if he's really slowing down or not. In 2012, he worked on another survival show called Into the Wild. We'll just have to wait and see if he's got any other adventures left in store. Emma Watson's evolution. This famous young witch has gained a major reputation for her growth over the years. Emma Watson was first known for her role as the young Hermione Granger in all 8 of the famous Harry Potter films. She began her acting career in 1999 when she auditioned for the part in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which would later come out in 2001. She spent the next 10 years solely acting in the Harry Potter movie series before its conclusion, and she could move on to more mature roles, such as her major part in Perks of Being a Wallflower that came out in 2012. While in the midst of her acting career, she also pursued a college degree, which proved to be difficult due to her constant stardom everywhere she went. She attended private classes at Brown University beginning in 2009. During this time, she took a break from acting and filming and also studied at Oxford for a year. She graduated from Brown in 2014 with a bachelor's degree in English, but instead of rejoining the Hollywood lifestyle as a major actress, she's now currently a political advocate for women's rights and gender equality. It's amazing that she still looks as young as she did when she was still acting in Harry Potter, but you can see the maturity since her first role on the big screen. The face of Macaulay Culkin. With a face as iconic as the Home Alone star, Macaulay Culkin, you probably would have been shocked in the 90s to hear that his brother, Kieran Culkin, is the more relevant actor. But still, most people will continue to remember the childhood version of the older Culkin, so long as Home Alone continues to pop up every year around the Christmas season. As an adult though, Macaulay Culkin has had an unfortunate legacy as one of the biggest falls from grace in recent Hollywood years. His 10-year-old stardom took several drastic turns down the road, including drug and substance abuse, legal troubles, and an infamous mugshot in 2004. Rumors traveled fast, and the aged Culkin had to do some sort of damage control, letting people know he wasn't nearly as deranged as the tabloids made him out to be. The troubles might have started when he formally emancipated himself from his parents at age 15, although there was a lot going on in his life at the time. When he refers to his drug habits, he does say that he loved them more like friends, but he had to outgrow them. In his more recent years, Culkin seems to have cleaned up a lot more. He's making appearances on TV and doesn't mind reliving his old childhood fame for parodies or jokes. When life gets hard, having a sense of humor must be a good way to move forward. The magic of Matthew Lewis. Here's another magical Harry Potter transformation. If you were to see Matthew Lewis today, you would have no idea he was once the cowardly Neville Longbottom from the Sorcerer's Stone. To be fair, that prep school uniform and comb-over hairstyle really didn't do him any favors compared to what was lying in hiding beneath the humble exterior. As his on-screen character grew more popular with the fans, there have even been talks of a Neville Longbottom spin-off. Who could have seen that coming all the way back in the early 2000s? In an interview, Lewis told reporters, "One of the things that ruined all the films for me was that I had to watch myself in them. It was a nightmare, but I can go to watch the new films without any kind of fear of my own performance." Of course, he's talking about the other spin-off, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, where he doesn't make any appearances. He also shed some light on his opinion of how the internet reacted to his full-body transformation. He said, "I never wanted to put myself in the limelight as any kind of attractive actor or heartthrob or whatever. It was never something I saw myself as, and I still don't." Wow, buff and modest might just be a good look for him. Would you want to see him reprise his role, or is it time for him to start landing other roles? Since his last Harry Potter film, he's had a few other roles over the years, including the 2010 indie drama The Sweet Shop and the 2018 thriller called Terminal. Maybe there's still some more left for us to see before he hangs up his wand for good. The friends along the way. Matthew Perry is best known for his role as Chandler Bing in the late 1990s sitcom Friends. Since then, he's played a few different roles in films and TV, although he's a much different character than his young 20s version of himself. Perry was born in Williamstown, Massachusetts, but lived in Ottawa, Canada, with his mother until he was 14 years old. Not long after that, he moved to Los Angeles to live with his father. His acting career began in school plays until he was cast in his first lead television series called Boys Will Be Boys, also known as Second Chances. Matthew Perry's strongest charm was having a look that many labeled as the boy next door. He was tall with dark hair and blue eyes, making him a total 90s heartthrob that was considered to be a Hollywood eye candy back in the day. What wasn't known at the time of his blossoming career as a famous television star was that he was also battling major alcohol and drug addictions. It was during the making of the TV show Friends that he first checked into rehab for Vicodin addiction. He would later be admitted for Vicodin, methadone, amphetamines, and alcohol use. The years of abuse seem to have caught up to Perry as he made an appearance on The View to promote his book Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. He no longer looks like the young active man people are used to seeing on their favorite sitcom, but that doesn't mean he's lost most of his fans. Many are still looking forward to Perry's next big role. Before you know it, time has taken advantage of us all. What we do with that time is what really leaves an impression though, and hopefully checking out these videos has left something meaningful with you as well. We'll keep an eye out of the transformation of other known celebrities, so stick around for the next list of radical changes we'll have in store.